Imagine you get an alert on your phone. It's from your government, and it comes in late, around 11:47 p.m. Tehran time on February 9th, 2026. The message strips away all the usual diplomatic fluff, leaving just a raw, urgent command. We're going to break down what this final warning really means for every American citizen still in Iran.
Just 4 words. Leave Iran tonight, now. This wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't friendly advice. State Department officials were clear. This was it. The last chance for an orderly departure. They'd never used the word final before, and that one word told everyone the window to get out was about to slam shut for good.
And with that message came a brutal deadline, 72 hours. That's all the time Americans were given before every single land border closes, trapping anyone who's left inside a country that's just spiraling into chaos. The clock is absolutely ticking.
So you have to be asking, how did things get this desperate, this fast? Let's take a look at how every possible way out of Iran is being systematically sealed off, turning the entire country into one giant closing trap.
You know, it's wild to think that just a short time ago, there were 3 perfectly good ways for an American to leave. You could just book a commercial flight, right? Or you could get on a special charter flight that the Swiss embassy was helping to coordinate. Or you could just drive across the land borders into Turkey or Armenia. These were the lifelines.
But this timeline, it just shows you how fast everything fell apart. On January 13th, airlines started pulling their flights. Less than a month later, by February 8th, boom, all international departures were suspended. That led directly to that final warning on the 9th, which set the stage for the permanent border closure on the 13th. One by one, those lifelines were just cut.
And that brings us to where we are right now. Commercial flights? Gone. Those Swiss charter flights? No longer an option. The only way out, the only one, is a dangerous, difficult drive overland to the Turkish or Armenian borders. And that last door is closing fast.
But you have to understand, this isn't just random chaos. This is a strategy. It's a textbook example of asymmetric warfare. See, Iran doesn't have to fire a single missile. All they have to do is close their borders. By doing that, they can trap foreign citizens, creating an instant crisis and giving them incredible political leverage over a superpower. But behind all the geopolitics, there are real people, real families, and they're facing absolutely impossible choices. So let's shift gears and look at the very real human cost of this closing border. According to internal assessments from the State Department, this is the number that matters. About 1,200 Americans who aren't currently being detained and are technically able to leave are still in Iran. Every single one of them is now facing a life or death decision.
And this is what that decision looks like. Listen to this story from one American teacher. Her journey started at 4 in the morning in a hired car that cost her $2,000. Right away, she got stuck for 6 hours because of protests blocking the road. It took her 17 hours just to get to the Armenian border, and then another 4 hours waiting in line before she finally crossed. She made it. But she watched as the cars right behind her were turned away. The gate just closed right in their faces.
And for thousands of dual U.S.-Iranian nationals, it's even worse. It's a complete catch-22. See, Iran doesn't recognize dual nationality. To them, you're just Iranian. So to leave legally, you need an exit permit for your Iranian passport. And that takes weeks, if not months. If you show up and flash your U.S. passport, you could be arrested on the spot. But if you stay, that same U.S. passport makes you a target. You're forced to choose between leaving your family, maybe forever, and risking prison.
And that journey to the border? It's a total minefield. You've got protests blocking the roads at any time, checkpoints run by the Revolutionary Guard, which is terrifying. There are fuel shortages, the internet and cell service go down so you can't communicate with anyone. And if you make it to the border, you're looking at 18-hour waits in lines of 300 cars, all with that constant fear that you could be the one who gets turned away at the very last second. So why? Why is this happening? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture here. Because this isn't just about controlling chaos. This is a calculated geopolitical chess match. And trapped citizens? Well, they've become the most valuable pieces on the board.
So the backdrop for all of this is some of the worst civil unrest Iran has seen since the 1979 revolution. We're talking more than 1,400 people killed in protests, over 5,000 arrested, and in the middle of all this chaos, the government is lashing out, and they're using any tool they can find to get back control and create some leverage.
And that tool has a name: human leverage. It's simple, really. By trapping foreigners, Iran creates a crisis that other governments, like the US, simply can't ignore. And just like that, people, human beings, are turned into bargaining chips. Their freedom gets traded for things like sanctions relief or unfreezing billions of dollars in assets.
And what you get is a standoff. The US has a simple goal: get its citizens out safely. Their tactic? Diplomatic pressure, public warnings. Iran's goal is also clear: get sanctions lifted and get their hands on $6 billion in frozen assets. And their tactic is to close the borders and basically create a massive hostage crisis without ever calling it that.
So this brings us to the really sobering question. What happens after that 72-hour clock runs out? For anyone who can't get out or who chooses to stay, the reality is incredibly grim.
And the US government has been brutally honest about this. There is no cavalry coming. There will be no rescue mission. Iran has reportedly moved air defense systems to the border, which means any kind of military extraction attempt would be seen as an act of war. So once that border closes, you are completely and totally on your own.
And if you need any more proof of just how final this is, just read this. This is a direct quote from the official US State Department travel advisory for Iran. It says, "Draft a will." They're telling their own citizens to draft a will. This isn't travel advice anymore. This is a government preparing its people for the absolute worst-case scenario. And for anyone left behind, the physical trap of a closed border just gets replaced by a bureaucratic one. Iran will start requiring exit permits for all foreigners. That process takes at least 30 to 60 days, and there is absolutely no guarantee of approval. You're effectively trapping people indefinitely with paperwork. So the trap locks in just a matter of hours. After that, communication will probably be cut off. A silence is going to fall over the fate of hundreds of Americans. And the question we're all left with is, what happens in that silence? And what price will eventually be demanded to break it?